Alright guys, here's the gear for Austere August, day 5 or 6, I'm not exactly sure. Use number 500 and today will be 50 I think, on the Nacet blade. It will go inside as usual for August this time. The timeless open comb stainless steel 68 gap razor. B13 knot from Declaration Grooming. Hybrid handle made by Dogwood Handcrafts with some wood from Briar Brushworks, I think. Been soaking for several minutes. And then the scent in the soap and splash and cologne is Chiseled Face Midnight Stag, as is for the whole month of August as well. And this guy was purchased from Pasteurs a while back. And I'm finally going to kill this tub. I've got to kill it sometime this month, right? I mean, we're still kind of early in August, so surely this won't last all of August. So we're going to do something different today than my usual, and it's going to be more of a dry load, because that could be something that makes this particular lather shine. And but while my hands are dry, let's go ahead and put the razor in the blade in the razor. So here's the Nacet, little N1 there, bend in the blade down there, the usual markings. Get the brush back in the water. One of these days I'm going to start taking the little introductory photo. I'm going to start taking it when I come in right before I put my brush in the little soap cup. I do that 5-15 minutes before the shave, and that's a great time to do a photo when it's dry. But who knows? We'll see if I can remember to do that. Alright, last time I went with the approach of we're going to give it lots of water. We're going to load with a medium wet brush. We are going to just work that lather up. We're going to give it time, lots of circles and swirls in the lather bowl to see if perhaps effort and lots of mixing is what it takes to get this particular soap base to be kind of lightly creamy while it's also really well hydrated. It's a tricky spot for this base for me, unless I'm using the slurry method. And so let's try a different variation, because yesterday was successful in the sense of I got great slickness. It didn't really have a lightly creamy nature to it. It was a little too less dense. It looked nice on my face, and it performed well, but when it didn't have a lot of viscosity to it, and I prefer that just for a sense of luxury. It's not a practical thing. It's just a more of an aesthetic thing. And I just enjoy the feel of that as well when it's on my face, instead of something that's so kind of light and airy as what this base usually gives me. But it could be also that this base is more geared for face latherers who don't put together that kind of lather in the bowl. They just need something that lathers up quickly, you know, that sort of thing. But at the same time, I mean, even if I was a predominantly face lathering shaver, I would want that same texture and the same slickness performance. So I guess for me, it doesn't work out to be too different. So today we're going to try the opposite. Instead of lots of work and lots of water at first, and I did last time add water as I went. I just really pushed a lot of into it, and it held on. We're going to try more of a dry brush this time. I think 20 swirls gave me 2 or 3 times as much lather as I needed yesterday. But you know what we're going to do? Just give it a big squeeze. And there's not really too much water left in here. Why not try different things? We're using this soap all month. Will this pick up any soap here? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30. Okay, since this had soaked, it picked up soap, and then we've also got probably some leftover moisture in the tub from previous shaves, and that probably helped it as well. I was a little surprised at the fact that it picked up some what seems to be a good amount of soap, more along the edges as you can imagine, since that's where the soap is in the tub, and you can see it here as well. So let's take more of a dry approach. Let's work this in the bowl here with minimal water first and just see what happens. You can see it's light and airy. I hope you can see that. Kind of bubbly. And of course it's going to cling to the walls because there's just no water to weigh it down and to make it more fluid. And so I think, and you can see the pastiness kind of on the brush there. And this is hard to circulate because then you've got to keep raking it up from the sides of the bowl. So let's go ahead and start trickling in some water. And then doing some swirls. That much water is going to be quickly absorbed by the brush. And we'll add some more. Let's see if we can... Well, I immediately notice a change there. You see it doesn't quite look so airy. Airy and pasty and light and puffy. So that's good. There are a few soaps out there that benefit, that prefer immediately after just a few additions of maybe half a teaspoon at a time. This looks a whole lot better. And again, it seems like I've overloaded. I wasn't sure if it was going to pick up very much soap because it was so dry. But what I'm going to be interested to see is, does this give me a different kind of lather with this particular process? Or is it pretty much going to be the same? I'm going to give this, turn off my water, I don't want to waste. Give this a good chance to mix together here. Take a look at the way it moves here. That's pretty good. Why don't we just try this out? Be a little quick on the shave tonight. Got to get back to work. Got to get my face wet before the shave. The sound tells me maybe it's too dry. The sound of the bristles and the sound of the motion as the bristles interact with the lather tells me it could use more water. So we'll see how it feels. Yesterday it was quite comfortable because I had such great hydration. Not quite as nice as that today, but not too bad. One of you guys told me about a mister that you were using. I think it was Jeep. And in this case, that might be helpful. After putting on the lather with my brush, then a little misting to kind of hydrate it more, and then maybe working that in to get that misty layer integrated more so that my skin feels the hydration more. And there we go. So yeah, I'm going to take a little meantime here, put some water in the bowl and improve my lather with some extra slickness. Oh, you're not tilted down. I got the camera mounted on this mirror that pivots, and I like it because I can pivot for the lather view. I don't have to hold the bowl up quite so high. Man, now this is a very different lather. This is super hydrated. Look at the way it behaves. I'm gonna do some deeper pushes with the brush to make sure that the lather is circulating, because I don't want there to be an area in the brush where maybe there's a higher concentration of soap. It's a nice thing by using so little soap. You don't have to worry about adding water enough to try to make sure you get all the way through it, because you've already gotten there, because it just wasn't so much soap to deal with that it was a headache. It was pretty quick to integrate everything. All right, so let's let that be what I use. I can tell that's more hydrated. I could also tell because of the feel, but also because it's messier. Even got some on my arm. Second pass now. And I can tell that this side I'm using right here on this left side of my left side of my face is the side without the bend in the blade. I can tell. Just a little more rough. In a way, it's kind of neat with the bend, because it's possible that when looked at under a microscope could give us some information. Shaving with a bend that is it sticking up a little bit more toward the user? Yes, it is. So that's why it feels more aggressive on that side. So does that hump in the blade right near the bend, has it more wear than the other parts, the straight parts of the blade. So when Greg checks it out, I need to make sure that I mention that to him to pay attention to. The water on my face. I think I did 20 or 30 swirls, and again I gathered up too much soap. Don't need that much at all. That almost slipped out of my hands. I love this, the knot of this B13, but I do wish the handle were a little longer. I like to use short strokes because if I do happen to get an angle wrong in a certain area, my skin, my hands, everything will tell me the sound. That'll tell me in an instant that I got it wrong, and I can make a quick adjustment. Whereas if I'm starting and then trying to maintain the right angle the whole time during a long stroke, it's very difficult for that to happen. And especially with an older blade like this, it definitely appreciates the more chances at hacking away at the hairs. So that's the fourth pass, I think. Comfortable shave. I do feel the blade. It's not tugging at all. I don't even know if it tugged on the first pass. Maybe a little. I hate that I'm using up so much of this soap just by loading too much. I mean, it is just pennies, but wouldn't it be neat if that ring that you saw was enough to last me for the whole month, just if I had used it properly? Very light touches on my skin as usual. I'm not going to fall. I'm going to try not to fall for the trap of using more pressure. One of the problems that can happen with that is if you're hypermiling a blade like this and some kind of marathon, and then you switch back to a younger blade, you could cut yourself or just give yourself some nasty irritation because you got used to using more pressure. And there we go. Get a good rinse now. So yes, with this soap base, the OG tallow from Chiseled Face, if I want creaminess, I need to, even lightly creamy, I need to wet it more, less than I usually do. Run it drier, in other words. You can see how much lather I still have in the bowl from that 30 swirls of loading. And it is definitely not too dry. It's really nice and hydrated. You can see how it moves on its own there. Okay, I don't guess I wasted too much. That's still like 3 or 4 passes of lather, but not as much as yesterday. I had a lot extra yesterday. If you have a dense badger brush like this, and you rinse it underneath the water at the end of the shave. And what I do is I'll grab it like this and I'll pivot my wrist like this very quickly to kind of sling the water out. And in the early days, before I was giving it proper rinses, I noticed that in the center there would be a little bit of suds that would come out. The outside would usually be fine, almost always, but if there was any lather left in the knot, it would usually be in the middle part, and that swinging action, that flicking like this, would cause it, I think, to come toward the outside, and then I'd be able to see it. So that told me that the water rinsing that I had done with the knot at that point had not yet gotten to all of the lather that was in there, and so I made sure I would rinse it for longer, get that stuff out. And so now we can go for the splash. Midnight Stag as well. This is the only aftershave that I really have ever used that has menthol, and I do it because I like the scent so much, and that's part of the contest. You got to use Midnight Stag, and you have to use the splash. Though I would love it if Chiseled Face would put out a version like Declaration Grooming with maybe just the menthol drops in a separate container. I love the way Declaration does that. And then why not, we can go ahead and spray on the cologne. Give the razor a good rinse out. Any last thoughts? I guess to tell you how I viewed this lather procedure, I thought it was neat how it picked up the soap really well. But I think the soap has to have some kind of built-in moisture from previous shaves. I think if you were to do it with, if I were to do that with such a dry brush on a regular basis, it would gradually leave less and less water in the soap, and that might make it a little harder to pick up the soap. Might be worth trying as an experiment to see if that's true. But it was pretty much the same lather as I get when I push a lot of water into it at first, whether I loaded with a medium wet brush or, like today, a squeezed out brush. They both produce pretty much the same lather. So it's fun to try. You never know when you're going to discover something, right? All right, well, I'm going to put a dot on my blue card here for the shave number 550, and tomorrow will be 551. And I think that is going to be all for the shave today. Thanks for watching. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. If my viewership is not as strong as usual during Austere August, and for obvious reasons, right? Who wants to? A lot of you guys watch because I talk about different products, and I'll use different brushes and that sort of thing, and so there's some variety on my channel. But it doesn't happen in Austere August, right? So thank you few for joining me. And in a way, this is more sciencey. This is more technique, and so some people like that. And it's also technique regarding a certain soap base. And the Chiseled Face soap base is not one, the OG one, the older one, is not one that, you know, tons and tons of people use, because there are just so many really good ones out there. So we're going to let the razor dry in a slightly opened state like that. Good airflow. And I think we have covered everything. We'll see you guys tomorrow. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Good night.